Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about the ugly side of programming. So let's get into it. Well, the actual question in question was less dramatic than this. The question in question was, Fredrik, can you tell me what the bad part about pursuing a long-term career in programming actually is? So the short answer is personal investment. I would say that is probably there are of course always things that are bad in more than a few things, but this is, I think, if we're talking career-wise, the thing that is going to stand out most. Now, what I mean by personal investment is not necessarily that you have to walk over corpses or be a cutthroat type of person to make it anywhere in programming, but what is a little bit sickening with this industry is that there is this expectation on the top-notch programmers and these are usually the programmers who make it somewhere, the people who actually get promoted, because honestly, it is damn hard to get promoted as a programmer. It's a very tricky thing. It's not a dead-end job, it's just that the way that you impress people as a programmer to the point where you actually progress to a higher level is usually, and this is actually funny because it's only in recent time companies have started to realize that they need to keep people coding and still give them a career ladder or some way of progressing to make their life meaningful. Because it is, and I would say it's still very common, is that the only way for you to progress in your career is to become a manager as a programmer. You go from coding exclusively until you become a team lead type of person or something like that, just managing a few people, and then it kind of goes from there. Some people stay team leads or tech leads or whatever for most of their career, and some people progress even higher and higher and so forth, and then you become a type of community manager or a CTO or something like that. That would be the pinnacle of where you can reach pretty much. Architects and so forth is also on that ladder, right? But you go from coder to more management type of more management oriented role, right? So companies have started to realize that this is actually not really all that great, and there's two sides to it. One part is that it demotivates quite a lot of people, because then they kind of they don't want to try to progress anymore because they love their coding and they just want to keep on coding. And the other part is, of course, that you lose programmers. If the expectation is that, if you have 5 programmers in your team and all of them all of a sudden are trying to pursue a career as managers, well, then you're back to the same problem that you've started with. And the problem is not that you don't have enough managers, because you are drowning in managers, quite a lot of them very shitty, but there are really good ones as well. But the thing that you're lacking is programmers. The world doesn't have a deficit of managers. There's tons of managers, but programmers, nope. And good ones are even rarer. I would say, I have this analogy where if we were to try to find the rarest thing in IT, I would say that would be a really good senior female backend developer. I had a manager who told me that, Fredrik, we're going to try to find someone like this, and I just laughed in his face and I said, I've met one such individual in my entire career. And what you're asking for, to find such a person, recruit them, and then have them be happy with our current situation, would be, it's kind of like saying that I'm going to find a unicorn with one blue eye and one brown eye. That is the level of rarity we're talking here. But they do exist. So what this means for you and your career is that you either have to go into a management type of direction, which is kind of interesting considering that you are an engineer, a software developer. So you don't really have that, like, if that's what you're good at, then you pretty much have to cultivate a different set of skills in order to progress your career. That's pretty much where you are. If you want to make a larger sum of money, and you want to, unless you were doing the job hopping thing, which is a different thing, but if within the same company, not necessarily, but overall, the best way for you forward is to actually go away from coding and start taking responsibility for the development process and project management and things of this nature. which is kind of, it's kind of funny, because if you do it well, you will outshine pretty much anybody who has done it as a full. Most project managers are not developers in their foundation, like at their core, which means that if you get good at this sort of thing, if you're a structured sort of individual and you are good at talking to stakeholders and so forth, you can actually get kind of far in this area because you have something that they don't, which is the technical skills. That doesn't mean that they're bad at what they're doing. I mean, they are educated and they know their stuff, right? But if you can learn to do the same sort of things, it's actually very, very useful, and it will help your career quite a lot. But what can you do then if you are more technically inclined? Well, this is where it gets tricky, because now your salary and your career is pretty much tied into one single thing, and that is your level of expertise. How impressive are you? How critical are you to the daily workings in one given company? And if you're starting in a new company, or if you're doing something else, it comes down to your personal investment, usually in your free time. That's usually what we're talking about here. It is it's kind of funny, because just working is usually not enough unless you're perceived as being extremely talented or something special or something like that. If that's not the case, odds are that you're simply going to have to invest time in your free time in order to progress to continue involving your knowledge and so forth. And this is the lifelong learning deal that probably a few people have told you, myself included, about what it means to be a software developer. If you want to progress your career and actually make it somewhere in IT, you cannot have the mindset that you're just going to clock in 9 to 5 and sit at your computer and just do what you're being told. That's not going to cut it. Then you're never going to progress anywhere. You're going to pretty much stay where you are. And maybe that's fine, because you are still, even if you're just programming, you're going to see some increase in salary and responsibilities in certain cases maybe, and you're going to make a decent living. But you're not going to have much of a career if we're going to define a career as something that you progress and you actually get better at, and then you actually rise above, if you will, or you step up on the ladder. So what I want you to take away from this is that the bad part about pursuing a career in programming is, first and foremost, that odds are that the only way for you to do that is to actually working in a management type of role, where you start out, and this is extremely common, where a programmer starts out learning coding first and foremost as a junior. They progress to a mid-level and they work for a few years and they become a senior, and then they are asked to take a little bit more responsibility, and unless they start taking even more responsibility and manage projects and stuff of this nature, they stay a senior pretty much, and then they kind of level out at that point. But there's quite a lot of pressure for you to go into more management type of roles as you get more seniority, right? And the other way is pretty much only through, the expectation on you is pretty much that you are learning in your spare time and that you're investing, and it's almost to the point where people kind of just expect that you should be coding for fun, and the company doesn't necessarily invest in you to learn these sorts of things, which brings us back to that this 9 to 5 idea. That's pretty much unfeasible if you want to really make something of yourself as a programmer. So that extra effort is definitely required. I mean, this is not unique to programming in any way. There are many different, sales is the same sort of thing, where you can't just do your normal work unless you're extraordinarily good at it and then expect to get a promotion. You're gonna have to go the extra mile and impress somebody. Or start switching jobs left and right. That's also an option. Have a great day.